So in this particular video, we're going to look at pre-formatted text and kind of look at the idea that when we're coding, the web browser is going to ignore white space and line breaks, structure that we apply to our typing that isn't tag driven. So using the files that we've been using all along, if you look at page2.htm, I've put a paragraph in, and it has the hickory dickory dock poem that we're all familiar with. And what you'll notice is that inside the paragraph tag, I have spaced it out the way that you would expect a poem to be spaced. And so the question would be, how is the web browser going to display this poem when we look at it in the browser? So we're going to go ahead and take a peek. So here's my home page we've been working from, and in the last video we made a link to the boring page 2. So we're going to click here and go to the boring page 2, and what you'll see if you look around look across the top of the page is that the hickory dickory dock poem is not formatted the way that it was typed into the text editor. And this is a classic example of the text editor ignoring formatting that we're applying to what we type that isn't tag driven. We could make this tag driven by adding line breaks in. So I could, if I wanted to, put a line break after each of the sentences. So copy and paste line breaks in. Let's make sure that their tabbing looks good. Tab, tab, paste, down, tab, tab, paste, so that it's nicely aligned. I always want our code to look good. So if I hit save now and go back, I can refresh the page, and I'm going to have the formatting the way that I wanted it. Notice it had to be tag driven. I'm not going to get a line break unless I tell the browser I want a line break. If I don't, then it's going to ignore all of this extra white space, and it's just going to print it out in one big long sentence. So in HTML, there is a tag that allows for you to pre-format text. In other words, type it in your text editor the way that you want it to appear in the browser. So let me save this. I got rid of the line breaks. I saved it. Just to reiterate, if I go back and refresh now, Control R, bang, I've lost my formatting. So there is a tag that HTML has that allows for you to pre-format text with line breaks and not ignore them, and it is the pre tag for pre-formatted. So open a pre-formatting, close the pre-formatting tag, and this tag will tell the web browser that you, let me do Control Save. This tag will tell the web browser that you do not want the extra white space and the line breaks in the text editor to be ignored, that you've typed it exactly the way you want it to look on the screen. So if I go back to my browser now and I hit refresh, now it's displaying in a pre-formatted fashion. Notice that it is even indented over from the left-hand indent in the screen. So so the downside to this is it's going to pay attention to everything that you do, including how far from the left side you're formatted. Control Save. There's an extra tab in there. So interestingly, when I hit the tab button to put it into position, it is actually seeing it differently than when I don't use the tab button. So I don't use pre-formatted text too often because I think it's a little bit harder to control how it looks on the screen, but it is a tag that's available. The big thing here is to recognize that the browser is going to ignore white space. It's going to ignore line breaks. Formatting needs to be tag driven. If you don't use tags, it's going to run everything together in a single line The exception is the pre-formatting tag, but you can see that it's going to be a little hard to control where things are positioned using the pre-formatting tag.